The evil hour begins in a masterfully deceptive way. We are not thrown into a cheap scare, but seduced by a disturbing calm. The opening scene introduces us to the vastness of the Brazilian Sertão, with a desaturated, almost feverish color palette under a merciless sun. The slow-motion camera follows the old car of Lucas, our protagonist, a skeptical historian cutting through the arid landscape in search of a forgotten village called Sombra da Serra, Shadow of the Mountain. The initial hook isn't an event, but a feeling. From the first moment, the director makes us accomplices in Lucas's isolation. The absence of music, replaced by a sound design that amplifies the cutting wind and the buzzing of insects, creates an atmosphere of oppressive loneliness. The first dialogue with the local is tense. The answers are monosyllabic. The gazes last too long. The film's promise is clear. True terror lies not in what is seen, but in what hides beneath the surface of apparent normality. The concept of the evil hour, a moment of the day when the sun casts no shadows and something terrible happens, is introduced as a children's legend, but the seriousness with which the villagers treat it tells us there is a deadly weight behind the superstition. The film hooks us not with a scream, but with a chilling whisper, forcing us to question, along with Lucas, what is real and what is collective delirium. The narrative of The Evil Hour is a downward spiral, built with surgical precision. The film follows a classic three-act structure, but subverts it with a deliberately slow pace that serves to escalate the paranoia. Act I is Lucas's investigation. He explores the village, interviews the residents, and catalogs his findings about the local legend, always with the skeptical eye of an academic. Tension is built through microaggressions, doors closing as he passes, and the discovery of strange symbols carved in hidden places. A turning point occurs when Lucas witnesses the evil hour for the first time. The event is subtle and absolute silence that falls over the village, the disappearance of all shadows for an agonizing minute, but its psychological effect is devastating. Act 2 plunges Lucas into the conflict. He tries to flee, but his car won't start, and the roads out of the village seem to blur together. The narrative becomes less reliable. We begin to question whether what we see is reality, or Lucas's psyche fracturing under the pressure of the community and its bizarre rituals. Flashbacks to Lucas's traumatic past begin to intertwine with the village's folklore, suggesting a deeper, more sinister connection. The climax is not a physical battle, but a terrifying revelation during the village's annual festival, where Lucas discovers that he is not an observer, but the final piece of a macabre ritual. Act 3 is short, brutal, and bleak, offering a conclusion that avoids genre cliches and leaves the viewer with a profound sense of unease, solidifying the message that some traditions are prisons from which one cannot escape. The film rests almost entirely on the strength of its central characters, who represent the eternal conflict between reason and blind faith. Lucas, played with brilliant vulnerability, is our avatar. He is logic, science, the outside world invading a closed biosphere of beliefs. The performance convincingly takes us from arrogant skepticism to a primal fear, and finally, to a desperate acceptance. We see his sanity unravel not through screams, but in his eyes, in the way his posture changes, how his academic research becomes the diary of a madman. On the other side, we have Silas, the elder and leader of the village. The actor's performance is hypnotic and terrifying. He is not a cartoonish villain. He speaks with a paternal calm and an unshakable conviction that is more frightening than any monster. Silas is the personification of tradition, a man who firmly believes that sacrifices and rituals are the only shield against a much older and hungrier evil. The dynamic between Lucas and Silas is the engine of the film. It is a philosophical duel where dialogues are weapons. The supporting characters, the villagers, function as a Greek chorus. They rarely act individually, moving and speaking as a single cohesive entity, which amplifies the protagonist's sense of isolation and paranoia. Their performances, even with few lines, are fundamental to creating the atmosphere of an oppressive collective mind. The direction of The Evil Hour is a study in restraint and atmosphere. The director clearly draws inspiration from modern folk horror, using wide, static shots to emphasize the individual's insignificance before the landscape and tradition. The camera rarely rushes. It observes patiently, letting the tension build naturally within the frame. The cinematography is the real star. The use of natural light is fundamental. During the day, the harsh, direct sun creates hard, well-defined shadows. But during the infamous evil hour, the photography changes drastically. The lighting becomes diffuse, flat, unnatural, as if the world were under a mortuary light, and the total absence of shadows creates a visually shocking and disorienting image. This visual choice is far more effective than any special effect. The sound design is another layer of terror. There is no traditional orchestral score. Instead, the film uses distorted ambient sounds. The wind sounds like whispers. The creak of a door resembles a moan of pain. Silence is used as a weapon. In the moments preceding the evil hour, all sounds of nature disappear, creating an auditory vacuum that is deafening and distressing. This minimalist approach forces the viewer to lean forward, to sharpen their senses, making the experience much more immersive and terrifying. Every technical element is deliberate and serves a single purpose: to build a castle of dread in the public's mind. At its core, The Evil Hour is a brutal exploration of the nature of belief and the corrosive power of tradition. The film uses the setting of an isolated village as a microcosm to discuss how communities, when driven by fear, can justify terrible acts in the name of a greater good. The hour without shadows is a powerful symbol. It represents a moment of terrible clarity, where there are no nuances, only the naked truth of the ritual. Or perhaps a moment where morality, the light, has nowhere to hide the shadow. The film questions whether modern skepticism is enough to protect us from ancestral and irrational fears. Lucas, with all his academic knowledge, is powerless against a faith that does not operate on logic, but on survival. It is a scathing critique of dogmatism and how isolation can turn faith into a weapon and tradition into a death sentence. Verdict: The Evil Hour is not a horror film for those seeking easy scares. It is a slow-burn psychological thriller that gets under your skin and stays with you for days after the credits. It is an atmospheric masterpiece, beautifully filmed and deeply disturbing. Although its slow pace may deter some, those who surrender to the experience will be rewarded with one of the most intelligent and frightening films of the decade. It is an essential piece of contemporary horror cinema, proving that the biggest monster is often human conviction. That's it, folks. That was our deep dive into The Evil Hour, a film that is sure to generate a lot of discussion and give plenty of people sleepless nights. Analyzing every layer of this work was intense, but that's what we're here for, to go beyond the surface and find the true art and horror of cinema. Now, the final clapperboard is in your hands. If you enjoyed this detailed analysis and want to continue unraveling the secrets of your favorite movies and series with me, your part is simple. Scroll down and click the subscribe button and activate the bell so you don't miss any new videos on the channel. And if this video kept you on the edge of your seat, leave a powerful LIKE, which greatly helps our work reach more movie lovers like us. Lastly, and most importantly, the topic of the next video is in your hands. Comment below which film or series you want me to dissect next. Do you want a classic, a new release, that one movie nobody understood? Send your suggestions, because I'm keeping an eye on all of them.